All right, baby, pull up a chair and get comfortable. This ain't no easy story for me to tell, but it's one that's been burning a hole in my soul. And sometimes the only way to put a fire out is to speak it into the open air. My sister sold me for $500,000. Not to strangers, baby, to a piece of paper, a legal document that said I had to disappear from my own family or my husband would go to prison. Sound crazy? Well, pull up a chair, 'cause that money came with a curse, and the woman who cursed me had my mama's eyes. They say money can't buy happiness. That's true, baby, but it sure can buy silence. It can buy forgiveness, and if the price is right, it can even buy family. I watched it happen to mine. My sister Charlotte, Charlie we called her, she always had a slick tongue and a pretty smile. We grew up thick as thieves in a one-story house with chip paint and a porch swing Daddy built by hand. Mama worked herself tired in that old diner, smelling like coffee and cornbread every night she came home. She used to say, "Family's the one thing you can't pawn me." Well, Charlie found a way. See, Charlie wasn't mean, not back then. She was just hungry for more than what this little town could give. While I was busy making peach pie and singing in church choir, Charlie was studying folks, learning how to read them, how to talk her way into their pockets and out of trouble. I married a good man, Robert, a railroad man with callous hands and a gentle heart. We had 2 boys, Marcus and Leo. Those boys were my pride. Marcus, my eldest, wanted to build bridges. Leo, my baby, wanted to paint the sky. We were broke, but we were happy. And that, baby, is the kind of wealth you can't measure. Charlie went to the city, got herself a degree, a condo, and a new accent. Came back every Christmas with perfume that smelled like money and stories about investors and opportunities. She'd hug Mama, kiss my cheek, and act like she was visiting from another world. And maybe she was. But when Mama got sick, that world came crashing down. It started with a cough that wouldn't quit. Then the doctor said a word I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Cancer. The kind that don't bargain. Hospital bills stacked higher than my kitchen counter. Robert worked overtime. I cleaned offices till my knees gave out. And the boys sold lemonade like little businessmen. Still wasn't enough. So I called Charlie, my voice shaking, pride barely hanging on. "Charlie, Mama needs us. Every little bit helps." There was a pause, a long one. I could hear ice clinking in a glass. She was somewhere fancy. "May?" she said, smooth as silk. "I can't just throw money at problems. I'm investing in my future. You always figure things out." That's when I knew. Somewhere between them big city buildings and that cold glass of whiskey, my sister forgot where she came from. She sent a check, $200, with a note that said, "For groceries, thinking of you." Groceries for a dying woman. I cashed it 'cause I had to, but every bite we ate from that money tasted like rust and regret. A few months later, Mama passed. The sky cried with us that day, soft rain, steady and gray. Charlie showed up in black silk and red lipstick, looking like grief's cover girl. She cried, sure, but there was something rehearsed about her tears, and when the will was read, I found out why. Mr. Henderson, the old family lawyer, sat us down in his dusty office that smelled like peppermint and paper. He read Mama's will in that low, careful voice, and that's when he said the number. $1 million. That's what the land our house sat on was worth. Half for me, half for Charlie. Charlie's eyes lit up like she'd just seen Jesus. "Can we sell immediately?" she asked, leaning forward, all business and no heart. "Mama just died, Charlotte, Ain't even time to cool a pie. We bake for her funeral. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. There are conditions. He slid 2 folders across the desk. One for me, one for her. Mine had the deed to Mama's house, the one Daddy built with his bare hands. If I took it, I got $350,000 and the right to keep the land forever. The other $150,000 would stay in a trust, only paid if the house was ever sold. Then he turned to Charlie's folder. It was thin, 1 paper. If the property is sold, he said, each daughter gets $500,000, but only if Mae signs this relinquishment of family rights. I frowned. A what now? He sighed. It means if you take that deal, you'll give up the Holloway name. No more family gatherings, no visits. You'll have to move out of state, no contact for the rest of your life. Legally, you'll be gone. The room went quiet. Even the dust seemed to stop floating. I looked at my sister, and she smiled. You knew about this? I whispered. Charlie crossed her legs smooth and calm. Mama wanted what was best for you. A fresh start? Lie. I saw it in her eyes. Mama would never cut her own blood. This was Charlie's doing. So that's it. I can have the house and a smaller share or take the money and disappear. Charlie leaned forward, her tone like ice. Everything has a price, Mae. You just got to decide what you're worth. I felt something break inside me. Not anger, grief. Grief for a sister still breathing. I picked up the deed. I said this house stays in the family. Mama's home ain't for sale. Charlie smiled again, not kind, not soft, a little twist of her lips like victory. Then she pulled out her phone, typed something fast, and said, Well, good luck with that, sis. You'll need it. She walked out, heels clicking like gunshots. Mr. Henderson sighed. She's a hard woman, Mae, but your mama knew what she was doing. She made sure you'd always have a home. I signed the papers, thanked him, and drove home, tears fogging my eyes. I thought it was over, that the storm had passed. But when I pulled into the driveway, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Holloway, this is Detective Miller. We're calling about your husband, Robert. He's been taken into custody for embezzlement and fraud. I froze. The line buzzed. The world tilted. And that, baby, was the moment I realized my sister wasn't done collecting. That phone call she made in the lawyer's office, it put my husband in handcuffs by sunrise. But she didn't count on one thing. My boys ain't no fools. When that detective said Robert's name, I swear my blood turned to ice water. They said embezzlement and I near dropped the phone. That's just a fancy word for stealing from your own job. And my Robert, that man wouldn't take an extra sugar packet from the diner without leaving a nickel. I tried to breathe, but the air wouldn't stay in my chest. I said, There's been a mistake. My husband's an honest man. The detective's voice stayed flat, polite, but cold. Ma'am, we have documentation and a witness. He'll have his hearing in the morning. Then the line went dead, just like that. It felt like somebody reached through the phone and snatched the floor right out from under me. That night, the police came. 2 cars pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across my curtains. Neighbors peeked through their blinds, hungry for a little drama. Robert was still in his work boots, dirt on his jeans, smelling of steel and diesel. He looked at me, confusion all over his face. Mae, what's going on? He asked. Before I could answer, 2 officers stepped up, said his name like they were calling roll in the classroom, and put his hands behind his back. He didn't fight. Robert never had fight in him unless it was for someone else. He just looked at me, those big brown eyes, saying what his mouth couldn't. I wanted to grab him, hold him, tell those men to stop, but my knees gave out before my voice did. The car door slammed, and that sound, it echoed all through me. That's the sound of your life cracking in half. I sat on the porch steps long after they drove off, rain starting to fall soft as tears. Every drop hit the ground like a heartbeat, and that's when it hit me too. The number the detective said, $150,000. That was the same amount of money my sister would have lost if I kept Mama's house. The trust, the number that had been dangling in her greedy little hands. I whispered, Lord have mercy. She didn't. But deep down, I knew she did. The next morning, I went down to the county jail. The place smelled like bleach and hopelessness. They sat me in a little room with glass wall. I waited, hands twisting in my lap, heart pounding. Then they brought him in. Robert, my man. But he didn't look like himself no more. His uniform was gone, replaced with orange. His shoulders slumped, his eyes red. He sat down, lifted that phone and said, May, I swear I didn't do this. I don't even know what's going on. I know you didn't, I told him. They say you took money from the railroad. He shook his head, eyes filling up. He showed me papers, bank statements, signatures. May, I don't even know those accounts. I reached for his hand through the slot. I said, you've been framed, and I think I know who did it. He looked up, eyes sharp now. Charlotte, he said her name like a curse. I said, she wants that house sold. She knew if you got locked up, I'd have to sell it to pay for lawyers. That's how she wins. He squeezed my hand tight. Then don't give her what she want, he said. We fight back. But baby, fighting takes more than will. It takes money, time, and people who believe you. And all I had was my boys. When I got home, Marcus was pacing the floor, jaw tight enough to crack teeth. He said, Mama, this don't make no sense. Dad is the most honest man I know. Somebody's setting him up. Leo sat on the couch quiet, sketchbook on his lap. He said, if somebody's lying, there'll be proof somewhere. There's always proof. That's when I knew. My boys weren't kids no more. They were men, and they were ready to fight for their daddy's name. We called a lawyer, a young fella named Daniel. He listened close, his eyes serious, his hands moving slow across that legal pad. When he finished telling me everything, he said, Mrs. Holloway, this sounds like a frame job, but the police won't give up the witness. That's what we need, the witness. So we started digging. Marcus turned our living room into a command post, laptop open, papers everywhere, news clippings, family photos. He searched for every name tied to my sister, her business partners, her old jobs, people she smiled next to in photos. He was looking for one that didn't fit.
3 nights later, he called me over to his computer. Mama, look at this, he said. There on the screen was a photo from some fancy city gala. My sister, Charlotte, in a red dress, her arm hooked around a man I recognized, Frank Gable. My stomach turned. Frank was Robert's old supervisor at the railroad, the one who got fired last year for messing up the books and blaming it on other folks, the one Robert had defended once, saying he deserved another chance. Under that picture, the caption said, Charlotte Holloway and her business partner, Frank Gable, attend Metropolitan Gala. I couldn't breathe for a second. Business partner. That was the man, the witness, the one telling the police my husband stole that money. Marcus looked at me, his voice tight. She paid him, Mama. She's working with him. Leo closed his sketchbook. We can prove it. We just gotta find the right thread. I sat down, heart pounding like a drum. It all made sense now. The way she smiled in that lawyer's office, the way she typed on her phone like she was signing my death certificate. This wasn't just about money, this was about control. My sister wasn't satisfied seeing me lose. She wanted to destroy me. I whispered, "That woman made a deal with the devil, and she's paying in other folks' blood." Then I looked at my boys, both of them staring back at me, and I felt a fire I thought had gone out when Mama died. She wanted to play games, I said. Fine, but she just picked the wrong family to mess with. Marcus grinned a little, the first smile I'd seen in days. "So what's the plan?" I said, "We find the truth, and when we do, we make her choke on it." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the street lights flicker, wondering how my own blood could turn into my worst enemy. Somewhere out there, Charlie was sleeping fine, thinking she'd won, thinking she'd buried me and my man under a pile of lies. But she forgot something. Holloways don't stay buried. The next day, the phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said I should. "Hello?" A voice I knew too well slid through the line, sweet and sharp all at once. "Hello, Mae," she said. "I heard about Robert. Such a shame. I tried to warn you about picking the wrong option." My grip tightened on the phone. "What did you do?" I said. She laughed, that same cruel, honeyed laugh I'd known since we were girls. "Now don't sound so upset. This could all go away, you know. I'm a reasonable woman." "What do you want?" "It's simple," she said. "Go back to the lawyer, sign the paper Mama left, and I'll fix everything. I'll make sure the charges disappear. You keep your husband, and I keep what's mine. Everybody wins." I didn't say nothing at first. My heart was hammering, my throat tight. "You're blackmailing me," I said finally. "No, baby," she purred. "I'm giving you a choice. Same one Mama did, only now the stakes are higher." And before I could answer, she hung up. I sat there staring at that dead line. The hum of it sounded like a wasp in my ear. My sister had finally shown her hand. She was willing to ruin every life around her for $500,000. But she didn't know me as well as she thought she did. 'Cause if she wanted war, I was about to give her one. I sat there holding that dead phone line, listening to the hum like it was laughing at me. Charlotte thought she had me cornered. She figured I'd fold to save Robert, that I'd sign my name away and crawl out of town like a ghost. But she forgot who raised me. My mama didn't raise no quitter. I called my boys into the kitchen. The air felt thick, heavy with every lie that woman had told. Marcus came first, still wearing his work shirt, sleeves rolled up like he was ready to fix the world. Leo came quiet, sketchbook tucked under his arm.
I told them every word Charlotte said. When I finished, Marcus slammed his hand against the counter. "She's blackmailing you, Mama. That's illegal." I looked at him, tired but steady. "So is what she did to your daddy, baby, but that didn't stop her none." Leo leaned forward, voice calm. "Then we stop her. We just gotta find a way to make her tell on herself." Marcus frowned. "We can't just wait around. We need proof." "That's right," I said. "And the woman who built this mess is gonna leave crumbs. People like Charlotte always do." The next day, we went to see Daniel, our lawyer. He looked worn out, dark circles under his eyes from digging through paperwork. When I told him about the call, he said, "She's pushing you toward that signature. If you sign, she gets everything. Money, house, leverage, and the charges vanish because she'll pull the fake witness." I nodded. "So if we don't sign,
Robert stays in jail. He leaned back in his chair. Exactly. Unless we can prove the witness is lying or connected to her. I told him about the photo of Charlotte and Frank Gable. His eyes narrowed. That's good, but it's not enough. It's circumstantial. We need a direct trail. Emails, bank transfers, something solid. We left the office feeling like we was standing on a cliff edge with nothing but wind beneath us. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice, smooth, sweet, full of poison. Everybody wins, she'd said. But I knew if I signed that paper, I'd lose everything that made me who I was. I went to the boys' room. Marcus was at his computer, eyes red from the glow of the screen. Leo sat cross-legged on the bed, drawing again. "What you drawing, baby?" I asked. He turned the page toward me. It was a web, thin lines connecting names. Charlotte, Frank, the lawyer's office, the railroad company. In the middle, he'd sketched a spider wearing a diamond necklace. "She's the spider," he said softly. "She builds webs, so maybe we build one too." Marcus looked over. "What's that supposed to mean?" Leo's eyes were calm, clever. "We can't beat her by fighting straight. We gotta make her trap herself." I stared at my boy, realizing he'd grown into something sharper than any of us. "Tell me what you got in mind." He laid it out, piece by piece. Marcus would use his computer know-how to make a fake email from a pretend law firm. The message would say the railroad company was conducting an audit and found new discrepancies in accounts Frank handled. It would warn that evidence pointed to him stealing money for himself. Attached to that email would be a fake ledger Leo designed. Dates, numbers, deposits, all of it looking as real as rain. The goal was simple. Scare Frank. Make him think the police was onto him. If he panicked, he called Charlotte. And if he called Charlotte, we'd finally have proof they were working together. It was risky. Dangerous even. But desperate folks don't have safe options. Marcus spent the whole night writing code and copying letterheads from real law firms. Leo sat beside him, drawing the ledger lines by hand before scanning them into the computer. I brewed coffee till dawn, watching my boys work like soldiers preparing for battle. When the email was ready, we sent it to Frank Gable's business address, one we'd found buried in Charlotte's old investor list. Then we waited. Hours crawled by. Noon came, then 3, then 6. I was starting to think the plan had failed when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Holloway?" A shaky man's voice said. "This is Frank Gable. You sent me that message. You know?" I forced my voice to stay calm. "We know everything, Mr. Gable. We know about Charlotte. We know she paid you to frame my husband." He stammered. She told me it was just a setup to scare you, that nobody'd get hurt. Then she stopped paying me, said if I talked, I'd regret it." "Where's the proof, Frank?" He hesitated. "She made me record everything, said it was insurance. It's on a flash drive in her apartment, hidden in the back of her desk drawer. You can't tell her I told you. She'll ruin me." I thanked him, hung up, and sat there breathing like I'd just run a mile. We had it. The proof. Marcus leaned forward. "We gotta go get it." "Baby, that's breaking and entering." He met my eyes. "Mama, she's breaking lives. I'm not sitting here while Daddy rots in jail." The next morning, Charlotte posted on her social media about attending a business meeting downtown. That was our window. Marcus called the maintenance office of her apartment building and reported a fake water leak on the floor above hers. While the staff were distracted, we drove into the city. Leo stayed in the car, eyes on his watch, while Marcus used the spare key he'd copied years ago when Aunt Charlotte used to brag about her fancy locks.
The apartment smelled like expensive candles and lies. Everything was spotless, arranged like a showroom instead of a home. We found the desk. My hands trembled as I pulled open the drawers. Pens, receipts, nothing important. Then I felt along the back and heard a faint click. A hidden panel popped loose. Inside was a small black flash drive. My heart pounded so loud I thought the neighbors might hear it. "Got it," I whispered. I turned toward the door, ready to run, but before I could move, a shadow filled the doorway. The knob turned. I froze. The door opened. It wasn't Charlotte, it was Marcus, and right behind him stood my sister, smiling like a cat with a mouse in his mouth. "Well, well," she said, stepping inside. "I had a feeling you'd try something stupid. And look here, you didn't disappoint." I stared at Marcus, my heart breaking. "What did you do?" Tears filled his eyes. "I'm sorry, Mama. She said if I didn't help her, Daddy would go to prison for life. She promised she'd fix it." Charlotte snatched a flash drive out of my hand, held it up between her fingers like a diamond. "You think you can outsmart me? You're just the same small-town fool you've always been." "You're a monster," I whispered. "No," she said, eyes glinting. "I'm a survivor, and you're about to take the fall for everything. I'll tell the police you broke into my home, tried to steal evidence, and your dear boy here will back me up. He'll say you forced him to help." I looked at Marcus. His face was twisted in shame. I could see the truth battling inside him, but Charlotte's hand was firm on his shoulder. "You see, Mae, you should have taken the money when you had the chance." She turned toward the door, purse hanging from her arm, confidence dripping off her like perfume. "I'm going to the police now. Enjoy what's left of your freedom." I stood there, numb, watching her walk out, feeling the walls closing in. But as she reached the hallway, a quiet voice came from behind her. "Aunt Charlotte," Leo said. She turned, irritated. "What now?" He stepped out of the shadows, sketchbook in his hands. His voice was calm, like a preacher on Sunday. "You should see this," he said. Charlotte laughed. "A picture? Baby, this is grown folks' business. Go play with your crayons." Leo didn't flinch. "It's not a picture. It's the truth." He opened that book and I swear the air changed. Every page was filled edge to edge with lines, arrows, and faces. On one side, he had Charlotte and Frank sitting at that gala. Then came the phone numbers, the bank transfers, dates circled in red ink. He'd drawn maps of the city, paths between her office and Frank's old apartment. It looked less like art and more like evidence carved by hand. Charlotte's smile faltered just a little. "What's this supposed to prove?" "That you ain't smarter than everybody else," Leo said. "I traced the messages you sent from your phone the night Daddy got arrested. They came from a burner app, the kind spies use to hide their number. It bounces signals through 3 countries before it comes back here. But you slipped up. You used the same Wi-Fi network you pay for every month at your apartment. I pulled the log from the public router downstairs. Your name's right there." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, I do," he said. "Frank met you 3 times before the police ever called Daddy. There's camera footage from a gas station 2 miles from here. I printed the timestamp. It matches the day you told Mama you were visiting your lawyer." Charlotte's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Leo kept going. "And that flash drive you just took, the one you think holds the only copy, I already backed it up. The files are on a cloud server tied to your name. I left the metadata in place. It shows who created it, Aunt Charlotte, and it wasn't Frank." Marcus stepped beside his brother, his voice small but steady. "He's telling the truth, Auntie. We're done letting you use us." She turned on him, eyes like knives. "You betrayed me too." He shook his head. "You never gave me a choice. You said you would ruin Daddy. I thought I was protecting him.
but you were just using me like everybody else. I could see the storm brewing in her face, the mask cracking wide open. You think any of this matters? She hissed. You think the police are gonna believe some doodles and wild stories? I still got the money. I still got my name. All you got is a house full of bills and a husband in jail. Leo looked right at her, steady as stone. Not for long. He pulled his phone from his pocket, thumbed the screen, and turned it toward her. A timer flashed 0. Before we came here, I sent everything to our lawyer. Your messages, the bank transfers, the flash drive copy, all of it. If he didn't hear from me by now, he was supposed to send it to the police. Charlotte's breath caught. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I would, he said, and he already has. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. Then she dropped her purse and lunged for him. Marcus stepped in front of his brother, blocking her. Don't you touch him. He froze, chest heaving, eyes wild. Then she laughed, a low, broken laugh that didn't sound human. You think this is over? You think they'll just believe you? You nothing but a bunch of nobodies. I finally found my voice. Maybe so, I said, stepping forward. But nobodies don't lie on their own kin. Nobodies don't sell their mama's house for blood money. You talk about surviving, but you've been dying slow ever since you chose greed over love. Her lips trembled. For the first time, I saw something behind her eyes that looked like fear. She turned toward the door, ready to bolt, but Marcus moved again, planting himself square in her path. No one, Charlotte. You're staying right here till they come. Almost on cue, there was a knock. 2 sharp raps, followed by the sound of voices in the hall. Charlotte spun, panic rising. You called him? Leo nodded. Daniel did. They're coming to take the flash drive, and they'll want to talk to you about conspiracy and perjury. Those are fancy words, Auntie, but they mean you going to jail. She backed up, eyes darting from one face to another. You little rats, all of you. I gave you a chance to walk away. No, I said. You gave us a choice, just like Mama's will did. Only this time, we're the ones choosing. 2 officers stepped into the apartment, one of them holding a folder. Charlotte Holloway, you under arrest for fraud, witness tampering, and obstruction of justice. She stood there frozen. For a moment, I thought she might cry, but instead she straightened her shoulders, that old pride clinging to her like perfume gone stale. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, the officer replied, taking the flash drive from her hand. As they let her out, she turned back toward me. You think you won, Mae? You ain't got nothing now. That house, that money, is cursed. I shook my head. No, baby. The curse was you. They took her down the hall, and the door shut behind them with a click that sounded like the end of a chapter. When the silence finally settled, Marcus sat down hard on the couch, face in his hands. Mama, I'm sorry. I never should have believed her.
I put my hand on his shoulder. You made a mistake for love, baby. That's one kind of sin God forgives quickest. Leo closed his sketchbook, slid it across the table toward me. We should show this to Daddy when he comes home, he said. I smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. We will. 2 days later, Daniel called. The police had taken Frank in for questioning. He confessed the whole thing. How Charlotte paid him, how she wrote the forged documents, how she promised him another $50,000 if Robert got convicted. They had her voice on tape from that flash drive too, instructing him on every detail. When I hung up, I walked out to the porch. The sky was clear for once. No clouds, no rain. For the first time in weeks, the air didn't feel heavy. I sat in that old swing Daddy built and whispered, "We did it, Mama. Your girls finally told the truth." Robert came home the next afternoon. I met him at the gate, and when he saw me, his face just crumbled. He didn't say a word. He just wrapped me up in them rough hands of his and held on. I could feel his heart beating through his shirt, strong and steady. That night, the four of us sat around the kitchen table, the same one Mama used to polish every Sunday. We ate a quiet supper. Nobody said much, but it was the kind of silence that feels safe, not empty. Later, when the boys went to bed, Robert looked at me and said, "What happens now?" I smiled. "Now, baby, we start over. We sell that house, turn Mama's land into something good. We give those boys the future she wanted for us." He nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "And Charlotte?" I said, "She's where she put herself, behind bars, where money can't buy a soul." I leaned back in my chair, listening to the night sounds, the crickets, the far-off train, the heartbeat of home. The storm was over, but the lesson it left behind will stay with us forever. You can lose your money, your pride, your peace, but if you hold on to truth and love, baby, you ain't never broke. The week after Charlotte got arrested felt like the longest of my life. The house was quiet, but not the good kind of quiet. More like the kind that hangs heavy after a storm. You can still smell the rain, still see the wreck it left behind. Robert was home, but his eyes had a tiredness I had never seen before. Freedom don't wash away the stain of being accused. It just gives you time to scrub. The police called near every day that week, asking questions, collecting papers, wanting statements. I told them everything from the will to that last awful night in her apartment. They thanked me real polite, but I could tell from their faces they couldn't believe how far a sister would go for money. Truth is, I still couldn't either. When the trial came, it was held in the same courthouse where our mama once paid a traffic ticket and brought me candy for waiting so patient. Funny how one place can hold both sweet and bitter. Charlotte sat there in that courtroom wearing a beige suit, hair pulled back tight, face calm like she was sitting at some business meeting. The world might have seen a woman with poise, but I saw my sister, cold, scared, and empty. Frank Gable took the stand first. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in months, hands shaking, voice cracking with guilt. He told the jury how Charlotte found him after he got fired, how she promised him money and revenge rolled into one. He said she gave him fake documents to sign, told him what to say when the police came asking. Every word dug her grave a little deeper. Then came the audio. Lord, I never forget the sound of her voice coming through that speaker, calm as ever, talking about how Robert will take the fall. He's too proud to suspect me. I could see the jurors look at each other, see the disbelief selling in their eyes. The judge stopped once to make sure the tape was real. It was.
When it was my turn to testify, I walked to that stand slow, my knees feeling older than they had any right to. The lawyer asked me what I wanted to say about my sister. I looked right at Charlotte, straight through that mask she was wearing. "I just want the truth," I said. "That's all. Money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy back what she lost." Her eyes flickered then, just for a second, like the girl I used to know was still in there somewhere, buried under all that greed. The trial didn't take long. The jury came back after 2 hours, guilty on all counts: fraud, conspiracy, witness tampering. When they read the verdict, she didn't cry, didn't flinch. She just stared ahead, jaw tight, like she could will herself out of that courtroom by pure hate alone. They gave her 15 years. Frank got 5 for cooperating. And when they led her away, she didn't look at me, didn't look at Marcus or Leo. Just kept her head high like pride was all she had left. After it was over, Daniel, our lawyer, came and shook Robert's hand. "Your name's clean now, sir. You can go back to work if you want." Robert smiled a little, but it wasn't the same smile. "Thank you," he said. "But I think I'm done working for the railroad. I've had enough of chains for one lifetime." We laughed, but it was a sad laugh. The kind that comes when you realize freedom don't always mean peace. For a while, things were uneasy. Marcus wouldn't hardly talk, guilt weighing on him for believing her lies. Leo tried to pull him out of it, showing him new sketches, talking about starting over, but guilt's a stubborn ghost. It hangs around till you face it head on. One evening, I found Marcus sitting out back, staring at the horizon. I sat beside him, handing him a glass of sweet tea. He didn't say nothing for a long time, just sipped and stared. Then he whispered, "I almost ruined everything, Mama." I put my arm around him. "You was scared. She knew that. That's why she went after you. But baby, you came back to the truth, and that's what matters." He nodded, tears glistening in the corners of his eyes. "I'll make it right." I said, "You already did." After that night, he started to smile again, went back to his books, talked about finishing school, building bridges like he always wanted. Leo kept drawing, talking about maybe going to college for design, said he wanted to tell stories that mattered, ones that showed people what lives look like before they get too big. We talked about what to do with Mama's house. Robert didn't want to live there no more. Too many ghosts, he said. So we sold it, but not to no developer. We sold it to the county and used the money to set up a scholarship in Mama's name for kids who wanted to study but couldn't afford it. It felt right, turning something bitter into something kind. The day we signed the papers, I went out to that old willow tree behind the house, the same one where me and Charlotte made our pact as girls. The swing was still hanging there, ropes frayed but strong. I sat down and closed my eyes. I thought about the laughter we used to share, the secrets whispered in the dark, the dreams of leaving that small town. Somewhere along the way, she got lost. Maybe it started when she realized she liked power more than people. Maybe it started when I stopped seeing her as my sister and started seeing her as my burden. I don't know. But I prayed for her that day. Not for freedom, not for forgiveness, just for peace wherever her heart ended up. A month later, a letter came from the prison. The return address said Charlotte Holloway. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. It was short, just one line, written in her neat, cold handwriting. "Tell Mama I finally understand the price of blood means." No apology, no excuse. But I folded that paper up and kept it in my Bible anyway. Maybe one day my boys will find it and understand that even the worst of us can wake up to the truth, sometimes too late, but still.
Life slowly turned gentle again. Robert found work fixing engines. Marcus started college on the scholarship from the same fund we made. Leo got his first art show in a little gallery downtown. I went to see it, proud as could be. On the wall, right in the center, was a painting of a spider web breaking apart in the sunlight. He called it The Inheritance. I asked him what it meant, and he said, "It's about how you can't hold on to lies forever. The truth always finds a way through." I hugged him so tight he laughed. "Careful, Mama," he said. "You'll wrinkle my suit." That night, we came home to our new house, smaller, humbler, but full of warmth. Robert turned on the porch light, and I sat down in my chair with my coffee, staring out at the dark yard. Charlotte once told me everything had a price. Maybe she was right. But she never understood the part that mattered most. Love costs too. It costs patience. It costs pain. It costs forgiveness. But what you get in return? Family, truth, peace. That's the kind of treasure no thief can steal. I rocked slow, listening to the crickets hum, the smell of night jasmine floating through the air. And I thought about Mama, about how she'd smile if she could see us now. The Holloways, still standing, still together, still here. I whispered, "We kept your promise, Mama. We stayed a family." And for the first time in a long time, the world felt quiet in the right way. The storm had passed, and all that was left was peace. Time has a way of softening the sharpest edges. You wake up one day and realize the things that used to hurt like open wounds are just small aches now, like old scars that twinge when it rains. That's how it was for me after all that mess with Charlotte. The days stopped feeling heavy. I started breathing easier, laughing again, not because I forgot, but because I finally learned you don't have to carry everything that breaks you. 3 years passed. Marcus finished school, got himself a job building bridges just like he said he would. Leo's art hung in galleries now, real ones, with lights and wine and people saying words like texture and composition. Robert's hands, rough as they still were, found new peace fixing engines in town. He'd come home with grease on his shirt and a smile on his face, saying, "This kind of work don't lie, Mae. When something's broke, you fix it. Simple as that." I ran a little pie stand outside the farmer's market, selling peach and apple slices for $1 a piece. Folks said my crust could melt hearts, and maybe they could. Maybe that was just me putting love back into the world after all the hate that passed through it. One afternoon, Leo came by the market, hands in his pockets, looking nervous. "Mama," he said, "I got something I need to tell you." He handed me a letter. The paper was yellowed from the mail, the kind that's been handled by too many hands. I looked at the return address and my breath caught. It was from the state penitentiary. I asked, "She wrote again?" He nodded. Said she wanted to see you, said it was important. I put that letter aside for a while, weeks, maybe months. Every time I thought about opening it, my hands would shake. I didn't know what she could possibly say that hadn't already been said in silence. But one night, I was sitting out on the porch, moon hanging low and the world quiet, and something in me said, "It's time." So I opened it. The words were different this time, still neat, still careful, but softer. She wrote, "Mae, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to look at you one last time before I forget what truth looks like." I didn't know what to make of that. But the next morning I got up early, packed a tin of peach pie, and drove the 2 hours to the prison. When I got there, they made me go through metal detectors and sign papers. The guard led me down a hallway so long it felt like it might never end. And then there she was, Charlotte, sitting at a small table, wearing gray, her hair streaked with white, eyes tired, but still sharp. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We just looked at each other, trying to find the sisters we used to be in the faces we had now. She was the one who broke the silence. "You look good," she said. "Better than I deserve to see." I smiled a little. "You don't get to decide what you deserve anymore. Life already did that." She nodded. "Fair enough." I sat down across from her. The air smelled like bleach and dust. I placed the tin of pie on the table. "Brought you something," I said. Her eyes flickered with surprise. "You made that?" "Same recipe Mama used," I said. "Figured you might want to taste something real for once." She laughed softly, the sound brittle but honest. "You always were sentimental." We sat there for a long while, talking about things that didn't hurt, about Mama's old garden, about the summer fairs, about how the world looked different when we were young. Then her voice dropped lower. "I used to tell myself I did it for security," she said, "that I was protecting what Mama built. But I wasn't. I did it 'cause I couldn't stand seeing you happy. You always had that light, Mae. People loved you without you trying. I had to buy what you were born with." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. I just listened. She took a deep breath. I've been trying, but I think maybe I got to start by making peace with you, she said. I looked her in her eyes. Peace don't erase what you did. It just means we stop letting it own us. Her eyes filled with tears. You think Mama would forgive me? I thought for a long moment. Mama loved us both. She'd forgive you before you even asked. But forgiveness ain't about her no more. It's about what you do with what's left of your soul. She nodded, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I ain't got much left, May, but I'm trying to use what I do got to help. I've been teaching classes in here, finance, business, helping the girls who got out of school too young learn how not to get cheated. I smiled a little. That's something at least. She grinned, faint but real. Don't sound so shocked. I ain't shocked, just glad. When the guard came to tell us time was up, she stood, straightened her shirt, and said, "Thank you for coming." I stood too, my heart feeling heavy but lighter than it had in years. I said, "Goodbye, Charlotte." She looked at me, eyes glossy under the harsh lights. "Goodbye, May." As I walked out, I turned once. She was still standing there, watching me go. For the first time, I saw not the woman who tried to ruin me, but the little girl who used to chase fireflies with me behind the old barn, laughing till our bellies hurt. When I stepped outside, the sky was a soft blue, clouds drifting lazy across it. I stood there for a minute, breathing deep, smelling the air. The world felt wide again. I drove home with the windows down, wind rushing in, sunlight hitting my hands on the wheel. When I pulled into the driveway, Robert was on the porch, whittling a piece of wood. The boys inside laughing over something on TV. I looked at them all and thought, this right here is everything. That night I sat out with my coffee, staring at the stars, thinking about Mama, about Charlotte, about how love and hate sometimes grow on the same vine. One poisons, the other heals, but both come from the same root. I thought about how Mama used to say, "Baby, forgiveness ain't a gift for the other person. It's freedom for you." And she was right. So I closed my eyes, took a long breath, and whispered into the night, "I forgive you, Charlotte. Not for what you did, but for what I won't carry no more." The wind stirred then, soft as a sigh. Somewhere far off, I heard the whistle of a train, faint but steady, life moving forward just like it always does. I smiled, leaned back in my chair, and let the quiet wrap around me. Tomorrow will come, same as always. But tonight, baby, tonight was peace. Now, baby, if you've been sitting here feeling this story in your bones, don't just slip away quiet. Go on and hit that subscribe button and stay with Auntie Mae, because every week I got more tales about life, love, and the price folks pay when they forget what matters. Pull up a chair next time and let's talk some more.